Okay, so now let's take a look at subdivision and counting rhythm. So if we're writing down a quarter note, which is worth 1 beat, it looks like this. And if we're writing down 2 eighth notes, which also equal 1 beat, we bar them together. So it's quite distinguishable, 2 notes with a bar at the top, barring them together. But what happens if we just want to write down 1 eighth note? Well, it would look like this. It's a note with a tail on it. And if you see this, it's worth half a beat. It's 1 eighth note. So a note with a tail is worth half a beat. And you also need to know what a rest looks like. So an eighth note rest looks like this. And it's just like a number 7 is a good way of remembering it. So if I bring up all the note durations we've learned, I'll add this as a PDF to this lesson so you can print it out. We've got the whole note, the half note, the quarter note and the eighth note. And remember that the eighth note can be written in singles as well. And if we were to write them down in singles, they would look like this with little tails. Usually if you can bar 2 eighth notes together when writing music, then you would. But if you can't, then you use the tail. I'll add this as a PDF as well so you can see the difference. And I'll also add this, which tells you the note and its corresponding rest. So print them out, pop them up on the wall by your piano or keyboard, and they'll be really handy. Okay, so practicing counting rhythm. So now we need to practice counting rhythm. If we take a look at this first bar of music, this is pretty simple because it's just eighth notes. And we've just learned how to do this using the word and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Nice and simple. So let's bring up a second line of music, mixing eighth notes and quarter notes together. So this becomes a little bit more complicated. Now, a good way to do this, if you haven't got a piano next to you, is to just say out the notes with your voice, as if your voice is the piano. You could always tap the driving rhythm with your fingers. So I'm going to tap the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and on the table while I say out the notes of the rhythm. So it would sound like this. 1, 2 and 3, 4. Yeah, so you can hear how that rhythm should sound. 1, 2 and 3, 4. And even without tapping, I can now hear that rhythm. 1, 2 and 3, 4. So let's try a third one. This time I want you to pause the video and give it a go on your own first. Okay, so this rhythm would sound like this. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. And even without the tapping, you should be able to hear that rhythm. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Bum, bum, ba, bum, bum, ba. So our top line, line 1, is counting quarter notes, nice and simple. 1, 2, 3, 4. Line 2, we're counting eighth notes, again nice and simple, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But what about line 3? What about when we want to count single eighth notes? Well, first up, there's a problem with line 3. Can you tell what it is? Well, each of these tailed notes are an eighth note, and we know that these are worth half a beat each. The problem here is that we've got 4 of them, and 4 half beats equal 2 full beats. And if you look at the time signature, we need 4 beats in this bar. We need 4 quarter note beats to a bar, and we've only got 2. Another way to look at it is to imagine that the 2 eighth notes are indeed a quarter note, and as you can see, we've only got 2 and we need 4 in the bar. So how do we combat this? Well, we use the rests. So we can pop the rests in like this, and now of course we've got 4 full quarter note beats in this bar. And again, another way to look at it is that an eighth note and an eighth note rest equals 1 quarter note. So here you can see there are 4 quarter note beats in this bar, which is what we want. So now we need to practice counting them. Let's say the composer has written this music. He wants you to play 4 half-note beats. Well, thankfully, in this example, those 8th note beats land on the downbeat. So it's nice and simple to play. The rests, where we won't be playing anything, land on the upbeat, which is the weaker beat. So to play this, it would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, which is very different to this. The 4 quarter notes would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if we mix these up a bit more, just to make it slightly more complicated, when you first look at a line of music like this, it might throw you. You're not quite sure how to count it. So we just dissect it, bring it right back down to the basics. We take a look at the first beat. We've got a quarter note, so we know we're holding that down for the 1 and the and. We then have an 8th note beat, so this lands on the 2 and we'll play it for half a beat. On the and, there's a rest, so we play nothing. And then on the 3, we're playing a quarter note, and on the 4, we're playing a quarter note. So this bar of music will sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Can you hear that? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if I was to take away the counting, you can still count in your head, but if you just play it on the piano, you can hear it more clearly. And if I was to swap around the half note and the half note rest to this, it's slightly different again. Now we're pausing on the 2 beat, so it would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You hear that? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And again, it's good to practice it without saying it aloud. Just say the beat in your head as you play. So let's bring a third bar of music up, and I want you to try this one on your own. Dissect it first and then give it a go. When you come back, we'll play it through. Okay, so let's take a look. The first note is an 8th note, so you play that for half a beat on the 1. And then the second note is a quarter note, which we start on the and. So we play this quarter note for and 2. And then on the next and, we've got an 8th note for half a beat. And then we have a quarter note on 3 and. And we finish it off with 2 8th note beats on 4 and. So this piece of music would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And once you've got used to playing that a few times, try playing it without speaking the beat. So counting rhythm with 8th notes is just going to take some time because it's a bit more complicated. Now, when you come to looking at sheet music that uses 8th notes, you just have to really dissect the bar of music and look at your rhythm. So if it's 4 beats in the bar and it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, you can do what I do, which is just draw a line for each beat so you can see exactly where the note falls so you know exactly when to play it. But it's just time and practice. And of course, I've added some exercises to this lesson to your practice plan, so do make sure you give them all a go.